guys, I have a two-part kind of video for you today. The first part is going to be Book Nook style book review, or basically just my thoughts on the ever popular at the moment life-changing magic of tidying up by Marie or Mary. I think she goes by Marie Kondo, who is a Japanese woman who helps people tidy, which kind of sounds like a different translation of organizing to me, but maybe it's not quite the same. So I'm going to talk about that first, and then when I'm done talking about the book, I'm going to talk to you about my upcoming home purge series and what that is going to entail, at least to begin, and kind of give you my thoughts on that and where I'm heading with that, and see what you guys think. So first of all, I'm going to start with my thoughts on the book. I read this basically in one go, which is fitting, seeing as she suggests that you should tidy all in one go, instead of breaking it up into bits and pieces. Now, one go to her, she says on average is 6 months, and that's what she finds with her clients, is as long as it takes for them to completely go through everything in their house. And her definition of tidying to me sounds like a total purge organization process. I wouldn't consider tidying to be the word that I would put with it. When I think of like tidying up, I think of like picking up around the house, which I do every day, little piles of things that accumulate and putting them back in their rightful places. I tend to put things back when I use them, but sometimes you don't have a chance to put them back right away, or people you live with aren't accustomed to putting things away in the same way you are. And so, you know, tidying to me, that's what that means. But tidying to her has a different connotation. And I'm not sure if that's like a cultural translation thing or what. But basically what it sounds like to me is a major purging and reorganization of one's belongings in one's home. Now, Kondo, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I apologize if I mispronounce anything. I'm not 100% sure. But I think that's what her name is. She has kind of titled this her KonMari method, and it's basically a two-step method where you start by going through all of your belongings in a very specific order and discarding anything that doesn't, you know, really resonate with you or bring you joy, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then the second piece is putting all of the things that do resonate with you, that do spark joy, as she calls it, away. But she insists that the only way to properly do this is A, all in one go, which can be up to 6 months, B, in that specific order, which I'll get to in a minute, and C, you must discard everything from any category before you start storing things. So she doesn't really break things up into bits and pieces in the way that somebody like I would, but she tends to kind of do things all in one fell swoop. And in doing so, she claims that it is such a dramatic and drastic change that it leaves a lasting effect, and it changes you, like it really actually changes you, which leads to you keeping up with your new tidy house or home. And she says she has a really great success rate with none of her clients rebounding, as she calls it. I would probably say like relapsing into clutter. She calls it rebounding. Because of her method is so drastic, and doing it all at once is just such an emotional and very visual and visceral experience, that it changes the person. So I think this is all very fascinating. The order in which, now I'm going to have to, I have little notes in my book here, I'm going to have to go to my notes for reference. But she has a specific order that she suggests doing things in. She's determined that the best sequence for purging things from your house is to start with clothes first. All clothes, and that includes clothes from anywhere in your house. And that's kind of a theme with all of the things, all of her categories. She says find the things from each category, from every part of your house. Don't organize by room or place, organize by category. So clothes first, then books, papers, something she calls kimono, which is a Japanese word, which basically translates to miscellaneous items. And then lastly, mementos. And she puts mementos last because they're the hardest emotionally to deal with. So she wants her clients and the people who read this book to have a really good experience of making decisions with their clothes, which apparently she thinks is the easiest first, and then moving on books and papers and miscellaneous items. You get all this experience in really figuring out what you think is truly important to you to keep, what sparks joy, and then by the time you get to the most difficult thing, which is mementos, then you'll have that experience, to use, so it's not quite as difficult. And actually within each category, she lists the order in which she finds it's most, efficient or effective to organize those things. For example, for clothing, she says start with tops and then move to bottoms, and then clothes that should be hung, socks, underwear, bags, accessories, clothes for specific events, and this includes like swimsuits and ski gear and things like that, and then shoes. And she even says she doesn't even really have a reason why her orders work so well, except for the basic category order that she has a specific reason for. But she says she's just from experience, that's what she's found has worked and works faster. So those are her basic principles. I think this book is a really interesting read if you're really interested in making a big change to your space where you live and what you own and kind of the reasonings around that. And she makes a lot of great points about individualism and one size doesn't fit all things that I agree with organization. What works for me might not work for you. It is totally individual. In fact, I'm going to point out a couple of things that I marked that I thought were really interesting that she said. As an organizing fanatic and professional, I can tell you right now that no matter how hard I try to organize another space, no matter how perfect a storage system I devise, I can never put someone else's house in order in the true sense of the term. Why? Because a person's awareness and perspective on his or her own lifestyle are far more important than any skill at sorting, storing, or whatever. Order is dependent on the extremely personal values of what a person wants to live with. I really agree with that. In addition to that, she also says that, quote, you are the standard. And there's no need to really compare what your space looks like or the items you keep and the items you cherish and how you store them to anybody else's, because it doesn't really matter. What you are doing is organizing your space to work for you with the things that you love, and judging somebody else or comparing yourself to somebody else, there's really no merit in that because it's a completely individual pursuit. So I thought those were really interesting points she made about, things that I agree with. And she even goes further to say that doing a major tidying, as she calls it, like this, can actually really impact your life and will impact your life for the better. It will increase your self-confidence. It will increase your joy of life and your purpose. Because she says that, the act of discarding things, of purging, and really making a decision and really considering how you feel about the things that you have and the things in your home gives you confidence in decision-making situations, which can obviously practicing that in one area of your life is going to affect other areas of your life. So if you have issues with making decisions or low self-confidence or low self-esteem, this process can really help you. And I can see where she's coming from with that, and I really like the reasoning she has behind that. I think that's really solid. A couple of other points that I flagged that I thought were really interesting in this read was about dealing with guilt attached with objects and how people hold on to things, not even just based on, memory or just a past event and kind of working through, you're living in the present, not the past, and all of that stuff. I mean, that she goes into a lot of detail about that, but more interesting to me was her points about dealing with guilt. And I really like this point she made about things that you get rid of that maybe you bought and never used or only used a few times, or especially things that, were gifts. she makes a good point that in buying it provided you with some service. It gave you a thrill. It gave you some sense of purpose, or it gave you something when you purchased it for some reason. And it fulfilled its purpose to you in that way. And she kind of gives you permission to let it go by accepting that it already served its purpose to you, which I thought was a really interesting point. I know I am guilty of holding on to things just because I spend money on them, and even though they don't suit me as I thought they would, they're new or newish, and I feel like I can't get rid of them because that's wasteful. Another thing that she meant, with guilt complexes is gifts. And this is another thing where people give you things all of the time, and they're not necessarily things that you love or use, but you don't want to make that person feel bad, so you hold on to things. And over a course of a lifetime, those things can add up. And she says that shouldn't be the focus of the gift. She says the true purpose of a present is to be received. Presents are not things, but a means for conveying someone's feelings. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think that a gift really just is an expression of love. And whether or not that person the fact that you thought about that person and wanted to show your care for that person with some tangible object or an act of service or whatever it was, that is the gift. The gift isn't them really loving it for all of time. Of course, you'd rather the people you love to really like the presents you give them, but that's not going to happen all the time. And you need to be okay with that as the gift giver, because then you're really giving a gift as opposed to expecting something specific in return. And I think gifts should be no strings attached. To me, it's not a gift if there's strings attached. That's something else entirely. But also, as the gift receiver, you should be able to accept the value of the gift as that person's expression of their feelings for you. And in that way, that whatever that item is, it served its purpose. So if it's not something you absolutely love and have to have in your life, you should feel okay passing it along to somebody else who hopefully will, be able to use it and love it in that way that you can't. And just hold on to that feeling of being cared for, because that is the true gift, not the thing itself. So those were a couple of the points that I found really interesting. The book itself is written in kind of a funny language. I'm not sure if it's the translation. This is translated from Japanese, or a cultural divide. I think it's probably a combination of both. I can see some people made comments when I said I was going to be reading this that they thought the book was kind of cheesy. They thought she was kind of weird about how she placed such importance on objects like having feelings, like taking care of your things because they're so tired at the end of the day, like not balling up your socks because they've been working so hard on your feet and they deserve a rest. I really think of that more as metaphorical. I don't take it as literally when I'm reading her book. I'm thinking of it as she's saying you should only have things in your possession that you truly love. And if you truly love something, you will take care of it. And if you're not taking care of it, that's a pretty good sign that it's not really serving its purpose for you, or it already has, and it's time to move on from it. So that's kind of what I took from that. I did have some issues with her kind of lumping mostly all people into the category of lazy and disorganized. I don't have the exact page where she says that, but she does say that in the first chapter or so of the book. And I'm not that kind of person. Like, I could see what kind of person she was talking to in this book, and it did not fit me exactly. Of course, there are lots of things that I took from this book that I found very useful and interesting and informational, but I didn't feel like I was the target audience for this book. And because I exist, I know that there are other people like me who are intrinsically self-motivated to organize and tidy up and keep things neat, regardless of how many things you own or don't own. I don't ever feel like lazy about that sort of thing, really. I mean, sometimes I get overwhelmed and things get pushed, back in time and in terms of how I manage my time, but it's never because I don't want to do it, because I am feeling lazy about it. So there, I had a little bit of issue with her kind of lumping most people into that category. I honestly don't know if most people are like that in the world, or in what cultures whatever culture you're from or whatever. I really don't think that, but maybe they are. I don't know. I wouldn't have assumed that. So I didn't like that so much. And I thought, her method it's pretty strict and pretty contained, and there's not really any room for flexibility within it. And I am all about, finding a method that works for you and taking bits and pieces from inspiration from other people and making your own way using that inspiration. So that's what I plan on doing with this book. And that's kind of a good segue where I want to talk about my home purge series coming up, because when I mentioned this in my 20-minute pickup video I did several weeks ago, there was a big response. You guys really were interested in it. It's something I've been wanting to do for the last year or so, and I really want to do it, and this book is motivating me even further. Now, I am going to take some of her tips from the book. I think I'm going to approach going through my clothes in exactly the way that she prescribes, but I'm not necessarily going to do her entire KonMari method, or however you pronounce it, because I don't feel like I need that, because I don't feel like I need a huge change to keep myself organized, since I'm already naturally inclined to do so. I do feel the need to purge a lot of the things that I have, a lot of my belongings, and I've been feeling that for a while. So that's kind of where I'm taking inspiration from her book. So I'm going to start with my clothes, and I'm going to try to film that for you guys in a way where I show you what I'm doing, talk you through my process, and kind of show you not just a before and after, but kind of why I'm picking the things I'm picking and why I'm donating the things I'm donating. And then kind of, I've already got an organizational system in place that I really like. I actually just updated it last year, and I will link those videos below. I had a closet organization, and I redid my drawers a bit. I'm still really happy with that. I don't know how that's going to change depending on how much I get rid of. I'm not really sure. I'm not looking to get rid of a certain amount. That's another point I really liked from a book. She says, don't focus on how much you want to get rid of or how much you need to get rid of. Focus on just keeping things you really love, and then seeing how much you get rid of at the end and letting that be a surprise. I'm totally paraphrasing. That's not exactly what she said, but I like that. Like, I don't have a goal. Last year when I did my clothing purge, I had a goal, and I exceeded it, and I did a huge clothing purge last year, and I feel like really unsatisfied still. Like, there's still so much more to do. Anyway, that's how I'm going to start this series, and then going from there, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to become like kind of boring or redundant to show me going through that process with all of my belongings, and I haven't quite decided if I'm going to try her category method or if I'm going to do it room by room as I kind of originally wanted to do, since that's kind of more up my alley. So I'd really like your feedback on that. I guess more so after I do the first video, the clothing purge, and then we can talk about what you guys liked about that, what you're interested in seeing more of. Because like I said, I'm not really changing my organization methods for this purge. That's another thing I'm doing. I'm just totally purging things first, and then we'll deal with updating storage after it's all done. Because I really don't feel like my organizational methods right now are wrong. They work for me even with the amount of stuff I do have. So I can imagine them still working for me, but I don't really know till it's over. Anyway, that's my plan. I'd love to know what you guys thought of this book. If you read it, I'd love to know. Feel free to comment below. And I'm looking forward to starting and sharing my purging series with you. If you want to play along and do it, with your own home and stuff too, that would be great. And I'd love to hear about your experiences with that as well. Like I said, I'm starting on all of my clothing first, so that's going to include all my coats and everything. Shoes, bags, the whole 9 yards. So hopefully I will have that video up for you guys soon. And in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the arrival of spring. It's the first day of spring today, so happy spring, everybody. What a great time of year to really kick off this sort of project too, to really clean and kind of reevaluate the things that you have, because I just find like spring is such a time of renewal and rebirth, and it really it like enlivens me to do this sort of thing. So anyway, I hope you're feeling some of that spring buzzing energy, and I will see you real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.